You've got to think your way out of your comfort zone. The comfort zone, mediocrity is your enemy. Average is your enemy. You say, so you've got to work on it. You've got to use that brain of yours. The brain has such a huge capacity. I'll tell you, most of us use only a tiny fraction of what this brain is capable of.
Welcome to this week's edition of Against All Odds. My name is Daniel Coker and I'm your host. And tonight I'm privileged to introduce to you a very experienced entrepreneur, someone I've known for many, many, many years. She's an executive coach, of a global executive coach. She's a neuro and coding specialist and a wellness entrepreneur, and has had a very, very, very varied business career, over many, many, many years. And she's in the person of Mrs. Grace Krobo-Edusei. She's also a pastor, actually, which is kind of how we met. Anyway, so Grace, you've had a very interesting career. Like I said, from your country of birth in Nigeria, I presume you were born in Nigeria? Okay. And to becoming a sought-after international leadership coach, a neuro and coding specialist, and a wellness entrepreneur. Tell us about your journey.
Well, thank you, Daniel, for having me on your podcast. I think this is a really nice topic that we're talking about today.
Thank you.
So my journey started a little while ago. And so I was born somewhere in the 60s, and I grew up in Nigeria, and I was born and raised in Lagos. And from a very early age, I'm the eldest of 11 children, by the way.
Wow.
Yeah. So at a very early age, I had a lot of responsibilities, even as a child. And I guess that formed me into what I am, who I am today, really, my background, because I was stretched. I was trained, and I had a lot of responsibilities, especially as a leader, being the eldest of 11 children. And then so let me just fast forward to going on to college and studying building technology, because I always loved design. I loved machines and stuff like that. I got inspired when they were building the Tinkan Island port in those days, because that was the way we used to go past the construction to school. So I fell in love with construction. And I thought, I'm going to be a builder or architect or something like that. But my parents wanted me to be a doctor,
Okay. Don't they all?
Yes, I wanted to be a doctor. I was like, what's that? Builder. So anyway, and they thought, a lady shouldn't be doing things like that. But it was always on my mind. And eventually I did go ahead to study building technology. And so I was doing what I really loved, and I continued on from there, and I did several jobs. I worked with architectural firms, I worked with building engineering companies, and so I went through the whole supply chain of building and interiors and all that. So I remember during my national service, and I actually got a job working in my own company, which was set up between me and my a late cousin of mine, and he worked in the real estate company, and he would pass on jobs to me to do the interiors. Well, so after doing the letting, and he introduced me to the tenants, and and I'll go on to do the interiors. And I was very fortunate because I was doing really high-end interiors at the time, and that was really good, very good exposure for me. So I basically kind of trained myself, even though my background was in building, but I used all my training in quantity survey and being able to, put things together properly and all that to deliver a great job. And so that took me onto having my own business. Fully. When my cousin passed, I went on to have my own business, and I was doing interiors, and I was also doing corporate corporate designs and things like that, like seasonally and all that. So I was doing all that. I had a studio, and a gallery where I hosted artists and also did some furniture design and all that.
Okay.
So that's how kind of my entrepreneurship journey kind of started. And I helped a lot of family and friends build their homes and did their interiors as well. So I was kind of the go-to person for stuff like that. And in between that, after that, I actually also got to, so after some time I thought, oh well, let me get a job also. So I was working with an oil company. In those days, the Agip, Italian oil giant Agip, and I was in charge of the properties. They had a lot of real estate in those days, from the MD's properties to some of the directors' properties, so making sure that everything was working well and all that. So basically, services. Again, I also use my skills as an interior decorator and designer to keep those properties in top shape as well. So that was really a great learning experience for me. And then so I went back from there, continued doing my own business again, because that's the entrepreneurship thing was always in me, and I thought, oh, I'm just going to continue doing my business. I went back to having my gallery and all that. I got married, had my first child, and then one thing led to another, and we moved to Ghana. The next stage of my journey. Yes. So
what kind of just tell me a bit about your background in terms of, you're the first of 11 children. Did you grow up in an entrepreneurial home? Were your parents entrepreneurs, or were they like salaried employees? I mean, how did you get the entrepreneurial bug? Where did it kick in?
I think I'll probably say from my mom, because my mom was really a stay-at-home mom.
Okay.
But then my dad worked with Mercedes-Benz, and so that was what he did for over 40 years. And so my mom was a stay-at-home mom, because she was kind of a restless kind of person, but she wanted to have do her own thing. So while at home, she was always doing something. She did train to be a seamstress with the old days Singer, if you remember, Singer in those days. Yeah. And then she would do all kinds of things. She would bake, she would cook, she would do so many things. She was always trying her hands at something. So, and I remember she would sell. She had a big depot, she had for selling soft drinks and all that, Coca-Cola in those days. So she had a huge depot selling Coca-Cola products and all that. So so I guess I think I got it from my mom. Our house was busy. Always I'm doing something. I was helping out. Okay. Yeah.
So I've known you for quite some time. I'm not going to betray our age, but I've known you for quite some time. And I've always known you to be an excellent communicator. And the reason I asked this question is the purpose of this podcast is basically to tell stories, or to capture stories of people's experiences, and to let people know of certain soft skills that they need to develop, which could help them to progress in their careers. And up until we started this podcast, I never really realized how important it was to communicate, because even getting your ideas organized and all that. And like I said, I've known you for many years, and you've always come across as an excellent communicator. Was there anything that you did to hone those communication skills, or did it come naturally? Because you seem to be able to come into any room and kind of read the room and engage with people. Is it something that comes to you naturally, or something you had to work on?
Oh, Daniel, I don't know. Well, you're really flattering me now. Well, I guess if I was a good communicator where you knew me, well, thank you very much. I didn't think I was. But I'll tell you one thing about communicating, from what I know now, and I guess if I look back, I guess one of the values is listening. I would say I try to live by values, and I think everybody should have values. And one of the top values anybody should have, especially if you want to be a good communicator, is listening. Okay. Listening to your audience, or who's the audience, whoever you're speaking to. So that's communication. Like I said, read the room. feel the vibes.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're communicating, whether it's a one-on-one or with a group of people, it's really about them.
Mm-hmm.
It's about them and not really about you. So when you want to communicate to people, you've got to read, it's got to be what they want,
Mm-hmm.
what they need.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, so listening and then listening to understand.
Okay.
And that's one of the things that I'll say can make you a really good communicator.
Mm-hmm.
So when you understand, somebody's point of view and or perspective, then you're able to communicate without judgment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's one thing that I've learned to.
Mm-hmm.
So when your audience knows you're not going to judge, then they're able to speak to you freely.
Okay.
And I think that's one of the keys to communicating, listening.
Okay.
Listening to understand.
I think that's a very key point that you brought up, because especially in relation to your interior design business, I presume that you go into a space, and you have your own ideas of what could sort of enhance the place and the room and the property and all that. But would you say that you listen to the client and get them what they want, rather than sort of impose your own feel and your own taste, over what they want?
A good interior designer has to listen to the client.
Okay.
It's as much as you know a lot of things,
Mm-hmm.
you've got to know what the client wants
Mm-hmm.
and what the client needs.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where, again, the power of listening is very much there. So if I was to put something together or to meet a client, I always do what they call a discovery meeting.
Okay.
It's when I try to find out exactly where is the client at this moment, how do they live,
Mm-hmm.
what do they do,
Mm-hmm.
what are their dreams, what are their
Mhm.
aspirations, what kind of family do they have. I need to hear them out.
Mm-hmm.
And if I put something together, and even when I put a proposal together, we kind of look at it again and then we tweak it. So again, always listening to them, and I cannot impose. Imposing my ideas absolutely is a no-no. It's got to be them. So
Mhm.
even when I do a really good job,
Mm-hmm.
if the clients, friends or family come into that space, they're going to say, oh, if I do your house, for example,
Mm-hmm.
and somebody should come in and say, oh, Daniel, this is so you.
Mhm.
Even though I did your house, it's not going to be say, oh, this is great. It's going to be, this is you, Daniel.
Okay.
This is what you love.
Mm-hmm.
But then put together beautifully
Mm-hmm.
and fulfilling all your requirements.
Okay.
For your family, for yourself,
Mhm.
everything.
Mm-hmm.
But it's got to be you at the end of the day. Then that's why I know I've done a great job.
Fantastic. So Grace, you happen to, you mentioned that you're married, obviously, with I think 3 grown-up children, and you're married into a very prominent family, and to be perfectly honest, you don't need to work, so I've known you for many years, and you're not somebody who needs to wake up in the morning and have to go to work, but what motivates you? Why are you trying to forge your own path? Is it because you're bored, or is it because you feel that there's something else that you can do to benefit society at large?
Well, I first of all, when I was getting married, I didn't know whether my husband was from a prominent family or not. And of course, we met in Nigeria, and I knew him and everything, but I really didn't know. That's the amount of history or geography that we knew was, Ghana was also an Anglophone country. We know that Kwame Nkrumah was president, and my dad was a very big Pan-Africanist.
Okay.
But didn't really know, much about whoever he was in that respect. But I would say one thing, even if one is married or connected to, or even if I personally came from this so-called prominent or great family and all that, you still have to be your own person. And I always say that I'm a person of value, and I need to add value to myself, and I have value to, and I need to add value to the world. And I feel that to be the person that God wants me to be, I need to also develop myself. So it's not just about making more money and all that. I remember some years ago I was doing this job for a client, and I did put in my proposal, you know, vis-a-vis the financing and the pricing and everything. And I remember he came up to me and said, "Well, Grace, why are you charging so much? You didn't need this money." Just like I was saying now, don't need to work. And I said, "You got to be kidding." And I said, "If it was you, wouldn't you charge for this job?" And so that the fact that it's not a matter of whether I need the money or not. You know, I am giving you value, and you need to, you know, pay me for what I'm doing. So we can negotiate the price, but definitely you gotta pay for it. So it's and there's a lot of satisfaction in being able to do your own thing. So today I worked all day basically, and I work to make myself happy, to make I know my value is I'm educated, I have things to do for people. And that's why I love coaching, I love training, because I'm able to transform people's lives, and it's what I love to do. It just makes me get out of bed in the morning and just go, and I just love it.
Fantastic. You know, you mentioned something about value, and it's one of the things I've picked up in interviewing people, that it's very important to know your self-worth, you know, because people will relate with you at the level that you perceive yourself. So if you offer a product or service, you know, and in your mind, you know, what you're offering is of little value, you know, then it's not that easy to, you know, convince people that they should offer you more value than you're expecting, you know. So I think that's a very key points that you brought up, that you know your self-worth, you know the value that you're bringing to the table, you know, and you're well worth, you know, being paid or being remunerated for that. Absolutely. So I think that's a very key point you brought up. So you've mentioned, you know, you've given us a bit of a gist into your background. What was your first business venture that you went into, and what lessons, if any, did you learn from that experience?
So I remember when my first business venture was really when I was doing my national service. Like I said, like my cousin and I formed this company, and I got myself posted there. Okay. You know, national service shouldn't hear that. Yeah. So that was really my first business venture. Then that's what I was doing with my cousin. Then on my own is when I was doing. I used to finish work at the oil company. We'll start at 7 o'clock, very early in those days. Then we're done by 4, and I had enough time to go around to my friends and connections in who were sitting at desks where I could get contracts to supply this or supply that, anything at all, and stationery, anything. And that's how I started. So I'll take off from work and I'll go to, I said, well, these are the places I'm going to go today, and I'm going to speak to them, and they will give, you know. So I'll get contracts here and there, supply this or supply something, furniture or something or the other. And that's really how I started. I remember buying myself my very first expensive watch. I bought it by myself. I was very proud of myself.
I know we share a passion for expensive watches.
And I treated myself. And I tell you, by the time I was in my early 20s, I was able to buy land, actually. Wow. From doing my own business. So a lesson I learned from it was never to lower again about my value, because sometimes I got stressed out because I brought the price too low and I would make a loss. And making a loss bothered me so much. It bothered me so much, it irritated me, you know. But then because there's so much competition, so lower the price. But then there's some things I could have walked away from. And that was the lesson I learned. don't have to do everything.
Okay.
Know your worth.
Mm-hmm.
It's not because you're proud,
Mm-hmm.
but it's because just know your worth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but be reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
I do a lot of complimentary. Even today, I do a lot of complimentary training.
Mm-hmm.
I don't call it free.
Mm-hmm.
I call it complimentary. So I do complimentary training. By the same time, I still do stuff that I need to be paid for
Mm-hmm.
and paid properly for it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not only about the money, but it's just about certain principles.
Absolutely.
So we don't have to take everything,
Mm-hmm.
but do the ones that best serves you and your clients, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You just mentioned a very important point there, and that's the point that you were engaged in having what you call a side hustle. Whilst you had your main job, and that's something that people today, sometimes wonder, should I just stick and focus on my main job, or should I, try and do something on the side? And it's something that I learned from one of my mentors, a guy called Grace Krobo-Edusei, Kenyan guy who passed away, I think 2 years ago. And he said to me that, Daniel, you've got to be doing 6 or 7 things at the same time. You can't expect to progress in life, by just doing a day job and that's it. So I think that's a very, very key point. Just listening to you, the fact that you close from work, and instead of going to sit somewhere and chill, you go around, looking for contracts, which shows an element of initiative, and I think that's key, that people need to learn, to take initiative. What can you tell us about that? I mean, how important is it for people to learn to take initiative?
Well, I think initiative is one of the most important things that anybody should do. Creativity, but I think you need also to follow people who have been ahead. Like you said, you just mentioned Grace Krobo-Edusei. I know Chris from Kenya, right?
Oh, yeah, Kenya, yeah.
Yeah, I met Chris a couple of times.
Yeah.
And he, having that mentorship actually helps. Because I saw the way my mom, busy with 11 children, by the same time, had time to make time to do all the things she was doing. Of course, she got help and everything, and all that. But it's important that you're able to take that initiative, go out there. You've got connections, do the networking. You know people. You definitely know people. Always go for the people you know, the low-hanging fruits. You find somebody, give someone a call, and don't be ashamed to say, oh, I could do some extra money, but why not? Who doesn't? Even Warren Buffett wants extra money, and so does Bill Gates. They will not be billionaires if they start and say, well, I was okay with my first million, and yes, so some people are held back by what other people think, but I basically just go for it, go for those connections, and you'll make it.
That's a fantastic point you made there. That don't worry about what other people think, because when you're down, they're not going to come and help you, and when nothing works out for you, they're not going to be there for you.
Yeah, I the word side hustle is a good word, I tell you. Side hustle, yes, it's good. There's a price to pay for it. So you know when to move on, side hustle is good. You don't have to be a hustler for life. Side hustle is good.
That's good. That's good. So, amongst the many things that you do, you're a neuroencoding specialist, a licensed brain health trainer, and a certified global priority solution specialist. What exactly do these mean? I read it, but I wasn't sure exactly what it meant.
Well, okay, so I trained to be a Maxwell certified coach.
Okay.
At the corporate level, and then I thought, okay, why not I add some other stuff? I was always interested in. I've got a kind of a scientific mind.
Okay.
I love the sciences, and I thought, well, what does this mean? So I decided to go more into it. So neuroencoding basically is really the study of the human brain, and how it relates to how we think, how we work, and how we get to our greatest potential, really using what they call neuroplasticity. So how the brain works, what you program into your brain, and all that. So it's not some highfalutin thing or some fairy tale thing. It's really based on science, really. How your energy, the vibrations, and all that, how that propels you to be the best person you can be. So using the power of the brain, that's what it is really, and using to get ahead in life. And so the brain health. So again, the brain is this super computer which is made up of trillions of cells, which send messages to all parts of the body, and it's such a powerful little piece of a little organ just there in the head, but we never think of it. We think of your heart, your kidneys, your liver. You think of all those things, but people don't really know the function of the brain on how we succeed in life. So as a coach, I thought, coaches, we helping people to move from where they are to where they would like to be. And I thought, so when I studied this, and I thought, this is definitely something that's going to help me with my coaching, because being able to tap into that, the whole wellness of the person, and not only just talking, encouraging or motivating the person, but really using the power of your brain to become everything that you can be. So the brain is involved in how you think, whether you fail or succeed in life. So the biological part of your brain, of course, is the one that you use for other things. But you also have the emotional part of your brain, the spiritual side of your brain, and all those other parts which control the way you think and how you succeed in life. So it's your brain that tells you to stop eating, even stop. And when you're eating too much, it's the brain that sends the signals that we are speaking now. You can hear me, you can understand me. It's the brain that is making you understand what I'm saying, and vice versa. So I thought this was a very good tool, and I have some programs for that. I've got what they call Brain Fit for Work and Life. So helping executives to be conscious of how their brain works, the power of their brain in how they succeed in life. So those are some of the programs. Memory Rescue is one of my favorite programs. A lot of times as we get older, we're having issues with memory.
I know, I'm suffering from that now.
Exactly, so you should sign up for one of my programs. and what's people ask me why. My why is really is my dad is in his late 80s now, and he's having those issues as well. And I thought, well, this is something I could learn, because if we knew what we knew now, maybe he could have been helped. So it's really important that we harness the power of the brain. So that's when you're encoding those things that help us to go forward in life, and also harnessing the power of the brain as well.
And there's one last one, Global Priority Solutions.
Right, so that's another certification I did. I did tell you about values. There's this organization, they do what they call the values roundtables. Lots of the conflicts in the world today is really because we don't have values. We know values. You go to a company, sometimes you see on the wall, we value this, we are this, we are integrity, this and that. It's just on the wall. It's not in the heart.
It's not the culture,
It's not in the heart.
In the heart, okay.
So this was to help people and organizations bring those values, those are mission statements, which are put on nice placards and things are hung on the entrance, or put in their brochures, or put in their website, to bring it into the heart of the people. So when I go into an organization and ask, what's the mission statement? They can't even remember.
Right.
Sometimes only the founder who who's able to say it. But it's just like it's only with the founder or the owner of the organization. It's not with the people. Okay. Sometimes they're trying to Google it quickly, find it, because that's what it is. So we're not living those values. We say integrity, responsibility, honesty. The only time people are honest is because we put cameras everywhere, isn't it?
Sure.
If they have cameras, people will probably not be honest, would they?
Yes.
And that's where this comes in. So I have in companies and even with people grouped together. So we do these sessions where we do what they call the values roundtables. And it's so powerful, very simple but yet powerful tools which I use for training people and organizations.
You mentioned the importance of using the brain and exercising the brain and applying yourself, with your brain. The Bible says in Proverbs 23 verse 7 that as a man thinketh his heart, so is he. How important do you think it is for young people to change their thinking, from a life of mediocrity, a life of being average, and thinking that the system is against them? That's the title of this podcast, Against All Odds. That's why we interview people who have succeeded against all odds. I mean, how important do you think thinking is as part of this whole process of progression in life?
And that's a very powerful scripture in that Proverbs there, and there's a book by Napoleon Hill, I believe it's called
Think and Grow Rich.
Think and Grow Rich, and there's another one called As a Man Thinketh. It's thinking. I would say tell young people, think for a change. Think. I think John Maxwell even has a book like that, Thinking for a Change. Because it's sometimes all we need to just do is find time to think. People don't think these days. Everybody just wants it done, ready for them. Like they say, it's a microwave generation. I think the way we're going, we're not even going to microwave it anymore. It's like just have it like that. So no time to even microwave it the way we're going. But thinking is such a powerful tool, and that's where the brain comes in. The brain was made for thinking. And the more we think, the more those neurons, again, are formed to accommodate what you're thinking. It's like, so if you want to build new neurons, it's like building a muscle. So, sometimes you do this exercise that maybe you're not really used to. And then you really feel pain for a couple of days. You have to take some painkillers, But it's the same with the brain. You do something different, so it shakes you up a little bit and stretches you a bit. Because the truth is that there is no progress, in the comfort zone. So you've got to think your way out of it.
I like that. There's no progress in the comfort zone.
That's a problem. So people are not thinking. They just want it, to be ready made. You've got to think your way out of your comfort zone. Your comfort zone, mediocrity is your enemy. Average is your enemy. You say, so you've got to work on it. You've got to use that brain of yours. The brain has such a huge capacity. I'll tell you, most of us use only a tiny fraction of what this brain is capable of. It's the most powerful tool, the most powerful machine, if you want to use the word machine for it. So it's like operating a machine, or you got this expensive phone. Most of us use the phone. You bought the iPhone, this or the Samsung something, very sophisticated, but you only use it to just take calls.
Or take pictures.
They can do so much more.
Yeah, that's true.
But I used to be that way.
Yeah.
I used to be that way as well. Until I got up and said, "Wow, I'm not living. I'm not living the way I ought to be living." And that's what kind of woke me up. And it was really from thinking through things. Sometimes we need to, not sometimes actually, my mentor, my coach is John Maxwell. He says he finds time for thinking. He has thinking time.
Wow. Thinking time,
yes. Not just, scrolling through your phone and doing something. Thinking time is a very powerful time. So we need to think our way through out of mediocrity and all that. I would say using your brain is very important, and that's what the brain comes, neuroplasticity. So when you're thinking, the brain starts to expand and accommodate, and new ideas start to come in. Again, how do you do that? You make sure you document, file things, write things down as they come. I mean, we talk about writing our dreams down. It's the same when you think what comes in. So have a way of filing those things and coming back to them and reflecting on them. There's a book by John Maxwell called The Law of Reflection. I do what they call a mastermind on that book as well. Mastermind is when people get together and and go over a material for about 6 weeks, or so 4 to 6 weeks. And one of the laws there is a law of reflection. And what do you do when you reflect? You think. You think on those things, that's you. Anything that comes your way, you think on it. If you meet somebody or anything that's gone through the day, find time to reflect and think it through. You'll be surprised for what's going to come out of that thinking. But sometimes we don't value that. And that's why we don't really get anything out of your day. The day passes. It's not going to come back. What did you get? What happened? What was that experience? And then what did I read today? What happened today? And then reflection is very powerful. It's a very powerful thing.
Yeah, so that's an interesting point you just made there. And how important do you think it is for people to read and to acquire knowledge and information? Because the generation that we live in these days are all into Netflix and watching one episode to the next and all that. But people hardly spend or invest time in acquiring knowledge and basically preparing themselves to be able to think things through, which is what you're telling us to do, that we have to think. How important do you think it is in this generation for people to acquire that knowledge, read, and do you have anything to say to us on that?
Well, reading and reading, properly. I mean, you can read anything, whether it's fiction or something on personal development or anything like that. Is a very powerful thing. Again, like with neuroencoding, when you read, your brain expands. Your brain tries to sort it out. What does it mean? And all that. Especially when you read and you reflect on what you have read. So it's not just reading to exams or reading for knowledge's sake. It's reading that expands your mind. Even fiction can expand your mind as well. You'll be surprised. So reading is important. It's unfortunate that today's generation do not have the patience to read. They want the headlines. They want the breaking news. And but I know there's still a lot of people out there, because I don't want the young people listen to say, oh, well, we read. I know lots of people who read, and they're the ones that are going to make a difference. I would say that some of the best writers are readers. If you don't read, you won't be a good writer. That's for sure. If you're not a reader, you're not going to know what's really happening in the world. The breaking news is not enough. The headlines is not enough. You've got to know what's in between. What's in between those lines. You've got a contract, you've got to read it. Lots of people don't read their contracts. So reading is everything and they get a shock. They don't read anything. So reading is such a powerful thing. You learn, you expand your mind. I'll tell you one thing, if you read a lot, you're not likely to suffer from a lot of the problems that we have when we get older. So we just have to keep reading. We need to keep reading.
Keeps the mind going.
Developing our minds, yes, and reflecting when we read,
So what does it feel like being married to a successful entrepreneur? I mean, if I was to be a fly in the wall of your home, what sort of conversations would I hear you having between you and your husband?
But from day one, when my husband and I met, he's always been very business minded, and so when we met, I knew that's the way he was, and actually I just supported him, and because I kind of knew he's a serial entrepreneur. He's always trying one thing or the other. He's always trying one thing or the other, and some of it didn't work, whatever. But fortunately, I just loved him, well enough to just like, well, whatever it is you're doing, I'm with you in it. And we always shared those things. Wherever, like today, it's called and said, well, we have a meeting this afternoon, so I prayed with him, and he's going to the meetings, and he's probably going to tell me how it went today. So we talk business, and it's also I would say my number one fan.
Okay.
He's always encouraging me.
Okay.
With my latest venture, I was like, oh yeah, you can do it. He's never really said no to anything, and I don't say no to whatever he does as well. And he's on the personality scale. He's very what it calls sanguine, if you're using the other, or in the disc personality. It's called a high I.
Okay.
High I there, and because he's very positive. He's a very positive person. So I try to encourage him because he's very positive. He likes the encouragement and all that. So we definitely talk business. What's the latest? Where we're going, and just look the future. For him, it's going to be business all the way, and for me, it's going to be coaching and training all the way, because I just love what I do, and he absolutely loves what he does. People ask me, say, well, again, like you asked earlier, you don't need the money, whatever, but I know that he doesn't do business because of money. He does business
because he has a passion.
He loves it. He loves it, and again, it's about the kind of things he does are things that add value to people.
Okay.
And I think that also gives him the satisfaction. So when he goes into a place or a country or any type of business, I see that business always helping people, always changing people's lives, and that's what I love about what he does. That's
good. So you've got three adult children, and did any of them get the entrepreneurial bug?
I would say especially my eldest.
Okay.
My eldest, he's 30 years old, and he works with his dad.
Okay.
And I'll tell you, since he was in high school, he was always trying to sell something or the other.
Oh, okay.
I remember, he even had a food delivery business. I think once he was in high school,
really? So
because he had to go to university, then they had to stop it. But he was always doing something or the other.
Okay.
And then my middle one, he even tried to sell rocks and stones to my friends. I pick from the garden. Then my last one is training to be a doctor. By God's grace, he should be done this year. And I think they'll have a bit of
little trace.
Her dog had puppies, and she's trying to sell them to me. She's trying to sell the puppies to me, so I guess everybody's got some entrepreneurial.
You mentioned a very interesting word, which is sales. And some people have a very negative connotation about sales. But without sales, nothing happens. And I think people need to learn that there's nothing wrong with being able to sell. Because selling is simply, presenting yourself, isn't it? And trying to convince people, which is a good attribute to have. What do you think?
I have nothing. I can see. Can you tell me what is wrong with sales?
I don't see anything wrong with sales, but some people have a fear or an aversion of being seen as trying to sell something to someone, if you know what I'm trying to say. I mean, we started this podcast, by accident. It wasn't planned. I was in Portugal 3 weeks ago, actually a month ago. I was in the company of all these high-flying executives, and the idea just dropped that, there's a space for this kind of thing, right? So on the train, I talk to people, I tell them that this is what I'm doing, I don't see anything wrong with it. But some people think that's kind of being too much in your face, you've got to keep to yourself. You know, people who keep to yourself, you know, if you keep to yourself too much, you know, nothing happens. Because you made a very important statement earlier that, you know, that progress doesn't happen in the comfort zone. You know, so I think being able to sell, you know, even going for an interview, you've got to be able to sell yourself, isn't it?
Absolutely,
you know, so
yeah.
I think sales is a critical attribute that people need to learn. I mean, when I started my career in the city, I joined an insurance firm, and I had to learn how to sell.
Yeah.
You know, and it's kind of built up my confidence. You know, I can talk to presidents, I can talk to important people.
Exactly.
I'm not faced by anything or anybody. So I think it's an important attribute.
I have nothing to do against sales at all. In fact, we do sales training in my. So maybe some of those people need to sign up for sales training. Because I mean, what if they want to use a nice, another word, not a nice word, another word, maybe marketing. But maybe they don't like the word sales. Let's call it marketing. But even that is getting a bad name as well.
Yeah.
We need to sell ourselves every day, everywhere we go. We are selling ourselves. We're selling ourselves when we go preach as pastors. We are marketing Jesus, right? We're telling you this is what we should buy into into Christ, buy into salvation. So however you want to call it, we are selling something. We're selling ourselves. When you present yourself, you go anywhere, you present yourself. So I don't think anybody should have any issue with that at all. Yeah.
Good. We're almost done. So, as someone with a star profile, now a star profile is something that I picked up from a book about 15, 20 years ago, written by a guy called Roger Hamilton. It's called Your Life, Your Legacy. And I think you should try and get it. You know, he talks about the fact that people have 8 different profiles. A star profile is somebody who is, you know, you are the brand. You know, you are the engine behind what you're doing. You know, and in your space, you know, you're very central to, you're very key to what you're doing. I mean, if you're not there, you know, I don't know who presents. Do you have a team that supports you in your business?
Oh yes, I do have a team. Yes, of course I'm the CEO and the founder, but I do have a team. I work with a team of also certified coaches as well. Yes. Yes, we needed to do that because we had expanded to that point. And also, I always felt that one of my motto is like, it's not about me, really, it's about the client. And I didn't want a situation where, you know, if I wasn't there, then people couldn't get the value that they needed, right? So I've trained my staff to be able to stand it. Of course, there's some things that I'll be the one to do. So yeah, self-branding and whatever is fine. I don't really go out to make a big deal about self-branding. I always feel that as you go along, people will get to know you for who you are. At the end of the day, because you deliver and deliver more even than expected at the end of the day. So the brand will come. We work on it. Yes, we use all the tools and all that, but it's what you do, how you show up, how you're consistent, and what your content and how you're able to solve someone's problems. Because that's all it's all about. And again, like sales, when you sell something, you're selling something to solve someone's problem. Every invention that was made was to solve someone's problem. The mobile phone, the camera was to solve a problem, wasn't it?
Yes.
So at the end of the day, I'm a problem solver. Okay, I solve people's problems. People are stuck. They're not getting anywhere. People, I would say I'm a dreamer to do a coach. You know, your dreams are there, but you're not doing it. So I help you do that. I also have a passion for team building in organizations, because one of the issues that organizations have because they have big dreams and they want to accomplish a lot of things. They want to expand, but they have issues with their teams.
Okay.
So teamwork is very important. Sometimes it looks like the teams are working, but it's really for to move forward. You know, we need more than just say, oh, hey, let's get together or sort of thing. Yeah. So we need more than just motivational talk. We need some good systems and training in place. Okay.
Right, we're almost done. Can you just tell us about a few challenges that you've had to overcome in the course of your entrepreneurial journey?
It's always like sexism, for sure.
Okay. Excuse me?
Yeah, sexism for sure, number one. And people feeling like you're a woman, therefore you shouldn't be operating at a certain level, you should be earning this much, you should be charging that much. Yeah. So I'm sure if a guy came and presented a bill, 10 times the amount, they probably pay the person. And then if I came with the same or even lower, they want to pay me far less. And when I recognized that much earlier, I definitely pushed back against that. So sexism was an issue, and it actually overrides everything. You're having a meeting with a guy, and they think that there's something between you people.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, that's always there. That's always there. So you travel for business. So so people was assuming that there's always something going on.
Okay.
That sort of thing. So all those things, every successful woman has to overcome. And I'm very fortunate that I have a great husband who is very confident in himself, and we trust each other, and so that's really helped me. And he's very supportive when it comes to that. So again, transparency and trust is important in relationships. Yeah. So that's probably, I'll say that was always the main thing.
The main thing, okay. Okay. So finally, as we wrap up, now what motivates you?
Oh my goodness. I love nature. Nature is a big motivator for me. I come outside and...
you have a lovely garden, isn't it?
I love gardening.
I know.
I wake up in the morning, I can't wait to get out of bed to see what's happening, that the world what has evolved today.
Right.
And I see things from different perspectives, and my faith is also a big motivator.
Okay.
My faith in God is definitely up there as actually number one. Without it, a lot of things have happened in my life, and I didn't tell you, we went bankrupt, all kinds of things happened.
Really? Seriously?
Yeah. So those are all those stories. But without the faith, and moving from one country to another, different things, faith is definitely a big inspiration, my motivation. Nature, like I said, even just looking at the flower, looking at the leaves, and I just said, my goodness, God is so great, and if He can do this with the flowers that are here today and gone tomorrow, how much more me? And so those are my guiding lights. My God's word is my guiding light. His creation is definitely big for me, and when I feel like I'm going to go there and do something for someone, and that's exciting. So I only go to my bed to sleep. I don't hang around there. I don't hang around there. I'm out like a bullet, and then out in the garden and out to work, and yes, I just love what I do.
Fantastic. And the final question. What advice can you give to our viewers? Because this podcast is primarily meant for people from the Black, Asian, and minority ethnic demographics. Is there any advice you can give to a young person who's starting out, that could perhaps help them to make some progress in their career?
would say, first of all, don't look at yourself as a minority. Yeah, even though, yes, they use that in the demographic thing, but sometimes we kind of internalize it and makes us feel small.
Okay.
And so that's something I want to say, that don't diminish yourself. So that's really important, number one. Never diminish yourself. Know that you're equal with anybody, even though the other people who are in the so-called majority. So that's important. And you need to be resilient. You need to be consistent. Put in the work. Don't do the victim. Don't play the victim card. It doesn't help you. Okay, it doesn't help you at all. And just be, again, I'll use the word consistency. Just keep going. Never ever stop. Never give up. Put in all the work and be creative. Use everything that the world has to offer. There's technology. Use it, and use it well. Don't use technology for useless stuff. Use it to your advantage. I didn't grow up with technology. You know, I didn't train with computers and things. Okay, but I overcame all those things, and I literally can use a computer like almost anybody today. I mean, of course, I'm not perfect. I mean, there's so much. You can't be perfect. I mean, there's so much to learn. Always ask for help. Get a mentor. Get a coach. Get a coach. You know, even me as a coach, I have a coach. They always say that a coach without a coach is a cockroach. That's what we say in our industry. A coach without a coach is a cockroach. So yeah, get a coach and grow yourself. You're going to grow yourself. I think that sometimes that's really the gap that we have. We have a lot of things. We go to school, we've done all those things, but there's something not quite right with our mindset. That's why I'm saying, don't diminish yourself. It's not about pride. It's about knowing your place, knowing who you are, okay, and who God has created you to be, and knowing that you have so much potential. You know, and the rest is everything. Everybody's got the rest of it, really.
Fantastic. So just before we close, how do people contact you if they want to hire you as a coach?
Okay, so I do have a website, and I'm sure you'll put it in the show notes
We'll put
later.
We'll put it on.
Yes, it's www.graceK-Edusei.com. Edusei is Echo Delta, Uniform Sugar Echo India. And you can find me on Instagram as Grace Krobo-Edusei. You can find me on LinkedIn as well as Grace Krobo-Edusei. And so the websites have got lots of things. I've got courses to help you along in life. I've got you can do your DISC assessment, your behavioral assessment. That's also a very great place to start. The law of awareness says you must know yourself to grow yourself. That's very important. So if you want to grow yourself, you need to know yourself. You can say, I know myself. I'll tell you, you don't really know yourself. We can help you out with that. So the show notes are going to give you all the links to where you can find me and book an appointment. And I tell you, your life will really be transformed. I can assure you of that.
Fantastic. So, ladies and gentlemen, on that note, we'll bring this week's episode to a close. I'm sure there's so much wisdom that has been shared with us today. I've learned so much, that in the comfort zone there's no progress. I'm taking that away with me. And that a coach without a coach is a cockroach. That I'm not going to forget. And I'm also going to work on my reading. And these are all things that our experts for this week has told us would improve our brain activity, and prevent early onset of dementia and other such illnesses. And I also encourage you to support her, book her. She does so much that she has to offer, so much value that she has to offer your business. So let's let this be a starting point, and I'm sure we'll all grow together. So thank you very much, Grace.
Thank you.
God bless you.
Yeah.
Thank you. If you've enjoyed this episode, you've learned something from it, I'd like you to do a couple of things for me. First of all, I'd like you to put some comments. If you have any comments for our experts for this week, please leave your questions in the question box below. I'd also like you to subscribe, like, and share this podcast with as many people as possible. We're trying to build this platform as a voice, for our community, and your help will take this very, very far. So please put comments, like, share, and subscribe. Thank you very much.